doing, Sam?
You were walking with somebody else. You were going.
Okay, planning board. You are live. You are recording. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks very much, man. Welcome to the Town of East Hampton Planning Board meeting for March 2nd, 2022. We have a number of matters on for site plan review and preliminary site plan review. Most all are in Montauk, with one exception. So we have no public hearings on for tonight. We have a couple of matters that will be in our regular meeting towards the end. But we will begin first with the Panago Maple lot line modification. Will is going to cover that for the planning department. Ed, you've got it for the board?
Yep.
And who is the applicant's representative on that?
Okay, stand by, Sam.
Thank you. Will or Eric, who's the representative for Panago Maple?
Oh, that's me.
Oh, Laura. Sure. Okay, very well.
They just let me in.
They did. See that? Okay, so we're all here. Go ahead. We'll get started. We'll go right ahead.
Thanks, sir. I'm just on a screen share. Okay. This is an application to modify the lot lines at 253 Panago Road, 255 Panago Road, and the adjacent 29 Maple Lane, dividing the property into two parts, splitting the parcel between the other two to make two new distinct lots out of the three parcels. The planning board previously reviewed this application at the meeting on February 2nd. Previous questions regarding Maple Lane access and the proposed pool setbacks were resolved at that meeting. It was determined that a variance will not be required for the application and that the proposed access easement on Maple Lane will be allowed as a service access. At the previous planning board meeting, it was determined that the applicant should submit a revised version of the survey titled Panago Maple Lot Line Modification. The applicant has now submitted that revised version of the survey. So in conclusion, with the revised survey having been submitted and all previous issues regarding the application having been resolved at the previous planning board meeting, the application is now complete and ready to be scheduled for a public hearing.
Very good. And Ed. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Wiltshire.
I have nothing to add.
I didn't
Nothing to add.
Okay. Ed, without further ado.
I'd like to make it more complicated.
Please, go right ahead.
Can't find a way, Lori. Looks good to me. Let's go.
Let's
go.
Does anybody want to complicate this matter any further? Hearing no further complications, we will schedule it for a public hearing. We don't. Okay. All right. See you at the next meeting. Does any board member disagree that it's complete and ready for a public hearing? Ready to be scheduled for a public hearing? Okay. In that case, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And, we will now move to Montauk. All the following matters are all in Montauk. First one is the Market Affordable Housing Apartments. This is actually a preliminary site plan review, and as is practice with these, we'd like to give the applicant who's coming to us ahead of the actual filing of an actual application, give them a sense of what all the board members who are present think about the application, so that it'll help make the application, when it does come in, perhaps move along a little more quickly. So this is Marco has it, and it has ordinarily been assigned to Lou, but Lou Cortese is not here tonight, so Ian is pinch hitting on that one. So is the applicant with us?
Yes. Good evening, board members. My name is Richard Kohler, and I'm here with Raymond Duran. Mm-hmm. And we just recently, within the past few days, actually purchased this property. And we had submitted the preliminary application to the planning board because we are in the process of reopening the market down at the old Gaviola's and it's going to be called Tony's Meat Market of Montauk.
Let me interrupt you. Don't mind. Let me interrupt you. You'll have ample opportunity to speak. I don't need to cut you off here. I want to. The way it works is that first we'll hear from Marco Wolf from the planning department, and then give you an opportunity to be heard, and then all the board members will pitch in. Ian Piedmont, Calder Piedmont will be the first one to speak, and then you'll hear from all of us. We'll probably have some questions for you as we go along. So,
thank you, sir.
No problem. I just give a kind of an order for things. So, Marco, go right ahead.
Okay, I will put the aerial of the location just so that the board members have a sense of where it is located. It is located, of course, in Montauk. And this is a preliminary site plan that is to convert 2,700 square feet of second floor storage space into 4 accessory apartments. The parcel itself is about 29,000 square feet. It's located off of Westlake Drive. It is zoned CB Central Business, and it is improved with a 2-story retail building and a paved parking lot. The site was previously known as Gaviola's Market, Montauk Market, and has been the subject of previous site plan applications that were also to convert the second floor space into apartments. At the moment, the site contains a retail market and a bike shop. It is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker. So going into the history of the site, the improvements on the parcel date back to 1985, where it was first granted site plan approval for a multiple business complex that at the time it contained the grocery store, the bank, a bank, and associated storage space. There is a drive-through window for the bank. I'll actually put that up right now. This is one of the plans of that site plan, just to give you a basic overview of that and what it looked like. So it had a drive-through window for the bank, 25 parking spaces, extensive landscaping. In 1990 and 1998, the previous owners also made site plan applications to convert the second floor storage space into multiple accessory apartments. At the time of those applications, the property was zoned WF waterfront, and the apartments over stores were strictly prohibited by the town code at the time. The initial site plan approval in 1985 had noted the following detail: that it is understood that this project maximizes the total coverage and on-site parking, and that this constrains any additional uses on the site. In 1999, the town board had adopted a resolution rezoning the subject parcel and the neighboring parcel to the west from waterfront to central business. The resolution is attached to the memo, and it does acknowledge that the proposed rezoning would allow the owner of the property designated as Suffolk County Tax number 300-6-3-4 to apply for the special permit use to convert the storage area over the market into 3 apartments. The town code at the time stated that apartments over stores must be made available to moderate income families, and that's still applicable to today. The town board finds that the need for affordable apartments in the town, particularly in Montauk, has been well demonstrated. Since the rezoning, the site has remained mostly the same, with different commercial businesses operating over the years. It is noted that in the town's 2005 comprehensive plan and in the 2019 Hamlet studies that affordable housing is still greatly needed in the town to serve those who live and work in East Hampton. There are currently 2 retail uses on the site, as I mentioned before: the grocery store and the bicycle shop. The second floor storage space was dedicated to the grocery store, which is now going to be turned into accessory apartments. Accessory apartments over stores are allowed in CB Central Business zoning by special permit. The application doesn't indicate any additional exterior renovations or improvements to the principal building. And the original site plan approval had noted that the parking lot was to contain 25 spaces with a truck loading space, and that has all remained the same. The addition of the 4 apartments would increase the parking requirement by 4 spaces. The site is already slightly over maximum allowable total lot coverage at 82.6%, whereas 80% is the maximum allowable. Therefore, any additional parking spaces would require variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. However, in the code section 255-5-50, which is related to apartments within commercial structures, the planning board may waive the parking requirement where sufficient parking is located nearby. The nearest municipal parking lot is roughly 1,000 feet away at the inlet to Montauk Harbor, but is 1 hour maximum parking. But that's 1 hour maximum parking. It's not believed that the on-street parking on either Wells Avenue or Westlake Drive is currently prohibited or otherwise limited. However, no spaces in either of these right-of-ways are delineated. I'll just bring back up the aerial again. The planning board would ultimately need to waive the parking requirements, or the formal site plan application would need to obtain variances from total lot coverage and possibly require on-site parking if all 4 spaces can't physically fit on the site. It is noted that there are no municipal parking lots in the immediate area. The applicants have stated that the apartments would be primarily for staff of the existing retail stores. Although the board cannot require that this is the case moving forward, it can be reasoned that these employees would be parked on the site during regular business hours. Therefore, the loss of those spaces may not be the case in practice. The board should discuss whether or not it is willing to waive a portion or all of the parking requirement. Parking calculations should be submitted at the time of a formal site plan submission. In addition, revised building plans should be submitted detailing the square footage of the retail areas, living spaces for the apartments, and other uses. Housing units have a generated sanitary flow requirement under the Suffolk County Department of Health Service regulations that are significantly higher than the retail storage space. The addition of 4 accessory apartments will increase the site's sanitary flow anywhere from 600 to 900 gallons per day, as apartments less than 600 square feet have a generated sanitary flow of 150 gallons per day. Those greater than 600 square feet would have a generated flow of 225 gallons per day. The site is located in Groundwater Management Zone 4 and has available public water. As a result, the allowable generated sanitary flow or the yield of the property is roughly 395 gallons per day. This is the calculation of 600 gallons per day over acre times times 0.66 acres. The existing roughly 5,000 square foot multi-use retail building does have a generated sanitary flow of roughly 150 gallons per day. The remaining allowable generated sanitary flow under current regulations is therefore roughly 245 gallons per day, which would only really permit 1 new apartment unit. However, the project could utilize the town's affordable housing credit program, which does allow for a transfer of development rights through the town and the Suffolk County Department of Health Services to permit additional sanitary flow on the property when being used for affordable housing purposes only. Under the provisions of this program, the property would be permitted to add generated sanitary flow taken from sterilized properties owned by the town to the maximum allowable of double the allowable flow under the current standards, or in the case of the subject property, up to 790 gallons per day. This would provide for the addition of up to 4 apartments less than 600 square feet. Although the board would need to consider the other site uses related to the proposed project, such as on-site parking, the planning department finds the location to be appropriate for additional housing units due to its proximity to stores, public transportation, public water, and employment opportunities. Formal sanitary calculations will need to be provided on the site plan at the time of a formal site plan application. The applicants are encouraged to contact the county as soon as possible if they have not already done so. With in discussion about sanitary systems, the town code would have to require an upgrade of a sanitary system to a low nitrogen system. This, as the site is increasing the parking requirements and sanitary flow, the low IA, the low nitrogen IA system would be required, and it's according to the original site plan, doesn't appear. It appears that the individual septic system is currently located under the existing parking lot. There's no comments from the fire marshal's office at the time of review. As noted earlier, the building plans should be submitted demonstrating the location and details of the accessory apartments to ensure that they meet fire safety standards. Due to the presence of cooking facilities in the first floor retail area, special design considerations may need to be made, and the applicants are encouraged to reach out to the fire marshal's office as well prior to a site plan application. So in conclusion, the application is to conduct those interior renovations, converting it from retail storage to accessory apartments. The site has previous site plan applications and noted that the site was heavily developed. Additional uses will require additional parking and trigger the need for an upgraded sanitary system. And the board should examine the rezoning resolution in 1999, where it was rezoned to central business, in part to allow the owner to apply for accessory apartments. And the planning board should provide guidance to the applicant on this project.
Thank you very much, Marco, for his thorough report. We give the applicant, Mr. Kohler. Now, the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, yes. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Richard Kohler. I'm joined here by my partner, Ray Duran. As I had indicated earlier, we just recently purchased this property just last week. We closed on it on February 25. It's our intention to reopen but change in essence what was there from just a regular market. Where what we are going to do is we're going to open a market and a butchery, something that Montauk really doesn't have. We think it's going to be something that the community will wrap their arms around. But you know, as this board is aware, one of the major difficulties in opening up any type of business like this out in Montauk is staffing and housing for the staffing. So, you know, and our proposal on this is to provide some not only affordable housing, but it's our intention that we're not even going to charge rent to our staff to live in these apartments when they need that housing. What else? You know, just one of the things I know that Mr. Wu was mentioning, the sanitary flow systems. One thing we do want to point out to the board is that it's our intention to reduce the sanitary necessity because we're not going to be actually doing the cooking for this business on site. We're going to be doing all of the cooking off-site
At another location.
at another location in Lindenhurst, and we'll be transporting the food to and from, you know, Lindenhurst. So the sanitary expectation is less than what it was before. You know, and again, you know, what we're trying to do here is provide housing for staff, which is essential to us opening up this business, and we hope that, you know, it will be successful. But without staff and being able to provide some form of housing for that staff, it's going to be very difficult for us.
Can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
If I could, thank you very much for your time this evening. I just wanted to also reiterate, you know, the harbor is an area in Montauk that really needs a store like this from a revitalization. Since Gavioli's closed, there really isn't the ability for local residents to shop there. one of my commitments as a business owner is we will be providing a discount card to residents and to employees that work in the Montauk market, Montauk vicinity, to receive a discount to make food as well more affordable to the community. I know that parking potentially could be an issue. It appears we're probably a few spots short. I just did want to touch base on that. The drive-through, which the bank used as a drive-through facility for Suffolk County National Bank for years, we would be willing to, if the board would consider allowing our staff to park in that vicinity of the drive-through behind the building. At this time, that's not taken into consideration for parking spots, I believe, but we would be happy to restripe that area, and if you're mean to it, allow us to have the staff park, or the people that are living above park in that area. So it may provide additional parking without actually taking away from the overall lot occupancy of the property. I think Mr. Wu had said it's about 82 and somewhat percent. So that might allow us to create additional parking without having to take away from the natural greenery that exists. We do plan on improving the landscape upon an application, and additionally adding sprinklers to keep it more green and more vibrant for the community. This is not our only location. So as Mr. Kohler stated accurately, we will be doing much of our cooking just to subside from the amount of staff we will need out in Montauk, and we'll be driving that product out daily in the morning for a 5 a.m. opening. We also recognize Montauk as a fishing community, which is why we will be opening at 5 a.m. To address and be able to provide food and beverage for fishermen in the morning. We plan on staying open to 9 p.m. at night. So it is a full service market. Just so you know a little bit, our business, our main business is butchery and homemade cooked grab and go items. I don't know if you really care about that, but I figured it's worth addressing. We make 98 different types of hot food a day, everything from eggplant rollatini on up. And that is in a grab and go model where a customer can come in and grab everything they need for dinner, pre-cooked, heat it up and go. Something Montauk doesn't have at this point. We all know the restaurants today out in Montauk are at 100+% capacity. If you don't make a reservation 2 to 4 weeks in advance, you probably don't get in. This will afford and allow the community to be able to get homemade fresh meals that they can just heat up and eat at home, or eat on their boat, or eat at the beach, or whatever have you. We also will be carrying beer and wine as well as our liquor license that we've applied for. Full butchery, we make, just to give you an idea, 16 different types of homemade chicken burgers. So everything we make is homemade. Nothing comes out of a bucket and into a case. It's all prepared. We have a full kitchen at our other location that will work from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. And that truck will lead, including with fresh bread delivery at 2:30 a.m. to achieve a 5 a.m. start out in Montauk. And this housing really is essential for us to be able to put staffing up there. As Mr. Kohler stated, we will not charge rent. None of our staff will pay rent. It's just to be able to draw quality people. We plan on also keeping this business open year round, something that is not happening currently in the market. We feel that we can build enough of a clientele with the locals and the residents that live out there all year round, as well as the people working, that we would be able to keep this business going for a 12-month business. Our other locations are neighborhood type stores. We're all about building a business within our community and working with our community. So we are happy to hear any questions or comments if you have any regarding the project and or the business, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So I thank you for allowing me time this evening to speak, and we look forward to serving your community.
Very well, thank you. Planning board member, Vice Chair Ian Calder-Piedmont will lead the discussion, be the first person to talk, and as I say, each of us will chime in. Board members, I'm going to start on what will soon be the actual left and right. I will start on the left after Ian with Ed and work our way around to Sharon. And Michael, I'll put you in after after Sharon. So just so you know, because you don't know where you're sitting yet. So, all right, Ian, go right ahead.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you, Marco, and thanks to the applicant for bringing this before us. As you know, this is a preliminary evaluation, and we're going to give you our ideas about the general, idea of the project and where we see issues that might arise. And upon a formal submission, there will certainly be more details that we'll have to work out. So just sort of take this as a first look. Generally, as you guys have laid out, and we all know, we certainly need affordable apartments in town in general, as you will for your business. So this board, and I think the town as a whole, is trying to do what we can to support that. With that in mind, I certainly support the idea of this project. I do think that Marco laid out the issues pretty clearly, but just to go over them again as something as a board member that I'll be looking at if you submit this formally. As a site plan application, the parking, you are going to come up short on parking. We do have the ability to waive that for affordable apartments, and I certainly would. I don't think that parking in this place has been a huge problem in the past, and certainly I think the neighborhood has room for spillover. As far as your sort of off-the-cuff idea of parking in the old bank drive-through, for us to approve something like that, it will just have to meet the dimensions of parking spaces as per our code. And I don't know if it would or it wouldn't. But long story short on parking, I think it's going to behoove you to provide as much as possible for your tenants or employees and your customers. But I don't think that number is going to be a sticking point here, because I think that I, for one, would be willing to waive it, in the end. Next issue is the Suffolk County Department of Health. I don't know if you have representation here, or if you plan on getting representation by, from an engineer. You would need to for a formal application, or a land planner. I think Marco laid out the numbers pretty clearly in terms of septic, flow. I realize that you said you intend to reduce that flow because you're going to be cooking off site, but the health department doesn't see it that way. They treat the space based on what the use is and the area. So regardless of how much water you're actually putting down the drain, there's going to be a septic rating that you're going to need to meet to be able to do this. I think the good news is that you have room through the town's program that allows you to use other, off-site septic flow for your property. And I think the town, I can't say for sure, but I think that it's in everybody's interest to have affordable apartments. So I think you'd have luck there. The only other thing would be the size of the apartments and how the flow is calculated based on the size of individual apartments. You could certainly fit 4 of the 600 square foot units, and I actually think you could even do a couple larger ones. But Marco laid out those numbers pretty clearly. And again, if you submit formally, I think you're going to want an engineer to look at that, because the health department application is going to be a whole other thing. Lastly, with the health department, we require low nitrogen systems to protect our groundwaters. And this is certainly an area that we would be concerned about that. And I do think you'd have to upgrade your septic to a low nitrogen system. And I don't think there's any way around that, which frankly is also a win for the town if you do that. If you provide affordable apartments and a low nitrogen system, it's a good thing. But you should just keep that in mind that is going to be some money and some work. I think there are grants available. You could probably talk to the planning department or others in the town or your representatives if you submit formally about that. Lastly, the fire safety is going to be an issue. I don't anticipate any problems, particularly if you're not cooking inside the building. But you'll just want to make sure that there's no fire hazards. And again, this is going to be, the strict code rules about this. I don't think you'd have a problem, but just making sure there's no, fire dangers with an oven below an apartment or something like that, and that you have the proper ingress and egress. So those are the general issues. Again, I'm supportive of the projects. We'll look at it more closely when you hopefully submit a formal application. But I think all those things are achievable and frankly would improve the neighborhood and be a welcome addition to Montauk. So that's my opinion, and you'll hear from the 6 others.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ed?
Yes, affordable housing in Montauk, terrific idea, no question about it. Very much needed. You need it. It's part of your business model. The town needs it, no question about it. So it's a great. a great idea. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Ian laid out the issue. First of all, Marco laid out the issues, and then Ian sort of summarized what they were. And it really comes down to the two things that he mentioned, which are parking and the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. I would love to see enough parking on site if possible, but again, I wouldn't hold this up if that were impossible. I too was actually looking at this earlier, thinking that the space taken up by the drive-through might actually make for 4 spaces coming in from the 2 opposite ends. But again, that really is up to our consulting engineer to determine whether or not that sort of meets dimensional requirements or not. One question I had is that there's now access to the site from both Wells and from Westlake. Is that right? For both sides?
That's correct from our understanding.
Okay. Yeah, I think this may create other issues in terms of access for emergency equipment and so on. But, if it were feasible in some way to eliminate the Westlake side, or if that's something that you would consider, that might actually open up some additional space for additional parking if dimensionally the drive-through doesn't work out. I think there's solutions there. Bottom line, I think there's some solutions there, and I, like Ian, would not hold this thing up based on numbers of parking spaces. I don't think it's a major issue in the neighborhood. The septic system, yes, absolutely, given where this is, needs to be a low nitrogen system, no question about that. I think, this option of using the TDR program is a great one. I personally have no idea whether there are enough sterilized sites in town to swap. So there's definitely some legwork to be done here to sort of figure out where you stand with all of that. I think that is sort of your biggest challenge, is working with the health department on that. But I think you're up for the challenge. I like the project.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Lou. And sorry, I was about to say Lou, but Lou's not here.
Okay.
So click. Randy, that'll be you. Randy? Is Randy on? Is Randy muted?
Unmute. Can you
Unmute.
hear me?
Yeah, I see your name. I don't see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hear you just
I
fine.
don't know what happened to my swap video and shared screen.
You want us to come back to you?
Sure.
Sharon, then Michael, and then we'll close with Randy. So Sharon, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think everybody has summarized the things that they have to take care of. I'm pretty familiar with this site. I actually use that bike shop quite a bit. And I think so far, to me, there's been sufficient parking for what goes on there. So, obviously, if they can fit the parking, that would be great. But I, too, would be probably favorable to waiving that parking requirement. I think they have to work out the septic more than anything else. And I hope it works out. Affordable apartments is well needed, as everybody knows. So we'll wait for the formal application.
Well, thank you very much. Michael?
Stop me if you've heard this before. Affordable housing is fantastic in Montauk. And it's zero rents. I'm just amusing. Is there going to be a lease for zero rents? I mean, zero rents is affordable, but that's. And also, I'm just. Is it going to be like one person per apartment? And the range is 450 to 600. I mean, would you consider 3 at 600? Just a musing of mine. And I have nothing else to repeat that's already been said. But I love the idea of affordable housing all through East Hampton town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Randy, are you back with us? At least in voice?
Stand by, please.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, you just had to log back in.
I'm still not getting any video. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't. We see your name, but we hear your voice. So if you,
Yeah. Well, did Michael finish up?
Yep. See you, and then I'll wrap up, and we'll go on to the next.
So I pretty much agree with what everyone said. Supportive of the apartment units. We did get some correspondence from the housing office about the covenants that we are supposed to attach to affordable units. And so I would encourage the applicants to meet with Tom Rule to talk about, my understanding is that affordable apartments are supposed to go through the town housing office, but that he does work out arrangements with owners who are building affordable apartments for staff. But that there is that's how we monitor the affordable apartments. They go through the housing office. There's a condition in the planning board approval. There's a covenant, and I think Tom's office probably monitors them from once a year or something. So I would encourage them to speak with Tom both about the management of the units once they're built, and also he's very familiar with the TDR program. The town has used it recently on other affordable projects. So that would be the planning department could give the applicant the contact information for the housing office in town. Well, I wanted to ask a question. Is it the bank is no more?
Correct. Yeah, the bank has now been reduced in size and is a bike shop. Chris Baird has been operating for about 3 years, and he signed a 5-year lease with a 5-year renewal with us to stay on. He wanted to stay there.
So this is maybe this is part of this site plan then would be to change the use of one of the spaces from bank to bike shop or retail, whatever that is. So we would be approving a new site plan that has the market, a bike shop, and 4 accessory apartments. That would be the new proposal.
Is that a question, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is a question. That's what we're talking about here. 4 accessory apartments, a market, and a bike shop.
Mr. Kohler, is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it. I agree about the low nitrogen. I think one thing about the parking and if you have to go to the zoning board of appeals for a variance, I'm wondering if a variance for coverage is maybe better than a variance for not enough or for us to waive. Let's say there's 4 more spaces required. Sounds like everybody would like to see if you can find a couple more spaces there on site. And if you had to go to the zoning board for a variance from total coverage because you had to pave to put the new spaces in, I would certainly be supportive of that. And then maybe we wouldn't have to waive all 4. We could waive 2 or something like that.
So they're going to be coming back. Was that it, Randy?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the members indicated earlier that you might consider having a private, one of the professional planners in town work with you once you put in the formal application, because as Randy just mentioned, there are some moving parts here, and it might benefit from some expert advice. Look, this is obviously we're supportive of affordable housing, but again, Member Parsons is right. You need to talk to the housing office because there are specific town code provisions regarding affordable housing and how it's put in place, and so we want to make sure that you do that also according to law. In terms of the parking, regardless of whether it's one or two or no changes, in my view, I'd be inclined to give you the additional parking, particularly because of the nearby municipal lot. We're talking about a food operation where people come and go, and so if there ever is a situation where there's not parking available, and I'd be surprised if that was the case, you at least have nearby, even if it's only a limited amount of time, municipal parking. So I think that'll work itself out. The sewage issue, the flow issue it's crucial. You're in Montauk, and you don't want to do anything that's going to create a problem, regardless of whether you're cooking on site. You are going to add 3 or 4 residential units, and that's something that you need to consider. But I think I appreciate very much, I know the board appreciates very much that you've come in with this preliminary application, and hopefully when you come back with a formal application, you'll have a good idea of what it is we'll be looking for. So thank you very much. And
thank you very much. Your advice and your input was well received by us, and we'll take the necessary steps to put a formal application in, and we look forward to it. Thank you.
Terrific. Thanks very much.
I just have one question. I know you mentioned that, or somebody mentioned that there might be grant opportunities available. Is there somebody that I could reach out to in the town to discuss that?
The Natural Resources Department can help you out with that regarding upgrades for sanitary systems. I would encourage you to reach out to them and speak with someone there who is aware of the programs they have there.
I'm sorry, which office was that?
Natural Resources.
Okay, thank you.
Who's the woman in there that's the key person, Marco? There's a lady who manages that.
I believe her name is Melissa. I don't remember her last name.
There's one
Melissa Winslow.
Melissa Winslow manages that grant program.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see you as soon as you're ready.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we hope that you guys will stop by the market once we're open in May.
Sounds good.
All right. Next, we have many things in Montauk that we need to look at. The next one on our list is the Pete's Garden Center and Service Commercial. Marco has this, and Lou Cortese has it also, and I'll be pinch hitting for Lou. It's going to be a quick pinch hit. Ms. Burke, are you on this one as well?
I am. Good
okay,
evening.
And the one across the street, correct?
Correct. Yep.
All right, very good. Okay, so first we'll do Pete's, and then we'll go across the street. Marco, go right ahead.
So this was an application to construct an outdoor storage yard with 3 parking spaces and 7 spaces in the right-of-way, a sidewalk and additional fencing. And this is on a cleared parcel that's zone CB. It's in downtown Montauk on South Euclid Avenue. The parcel is used, the applicant is proposing a garden center use with an associated commercial landscaping use. The parcel is used as an extension of the neighboring commercial property to the immediate west, known as Pete's Potting Shed. There's no principal building structure, and the site is currently used for retail and outdoor display of trees, shrubbery, and plants. So the applicant has submitted a revised site plan to address the concerns that were raised by the town's consulting engineer, Vincent Galdiello, regarding the applicant's proposed grading, drainage, and pavement plans. A copy of the engineer's previous report has been attached to the memo. The revised site plan has been sent to the consulting engineer, and the planning department has received his updated comments. That new memo concludes that the drawings and the design have been amended and it's satisfactory to the previous comments. It is noted that there are mathematical errors in the drainage calculations. However, the total volume of stormwater containment being proposed is compliant with the design standards of the town code. Really, the main changes are the addition of the catch basins located near the building in these small squares. The drywall number 2 has been enlarged, and I believe drywall number 3 might have been relocated slightly. Those are the real major changes to the actual drawings. The site plan revisions include a measurement from the proposed parking on South Euclid Avenue to the center line. This is the center line depicted here in gray. The plans demonstrate that the narrowest point is at 12 feet and 7 inches, which meets the minimum width for the travel lane of 12 feet for the road. It is noted that the parking in the right-of-way will require the approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The applicant's encouraged to make an application to them if they haven't already done so. The Planning Department recommends the Planning Board send comments to the Zoning Board once an application has been submitted. A concern was raised by the consulting engineer related to the existing block wall that services the rear parking stalls and if it could withstand a vehicle surcharge load. The applicant's engineer has submitted a letter stating that the construction of the wall could withstand the parking of vehicles. The revised site plan does include additional 6-foot-high parking bollards along the lot and the pavement details as recommended by the Planning Department. So I think I already mentioned the dry wells and the drainage. So it's just to remind the board that the alleyway is prone to flooding and to rain runoff, and that the calculations have been revised due to the additional impervious surfaces. The applicant has included a sidewalk that is to connect to the adjacent eastern parcel, which is 97 South Essex Street. That parcel is currently vacant and is under site plan review. The applicant is to ensure that there will be a proper connection and that a public access easement is to be provided for the sidewalk areas that are located on the applicant's property. At the time of review, no comments have been received from the Office of Fire Prevention. Site plan includes details such as grading, spot elevation, percent slope that will be reviewed by the Office of Fire Prevention for proper ADA compliance. There's no landscaping proposed, but the Planning Department would recommend planting street trees or native shrubs in front of the parking areas to enhance the character of downtown Montauk. And in conclusion, the applicant submitted revisions with new drainage calculations and parking details. They've been reviewed by the town's consulting engineer and found satisfactory. The plans would also have to be reviewed by the Office of Fire Prevention for ADA compliance. And the parking in the right-of-way will need approval from the zoning board. The planning board should discuss if any additional details or revisions should be made.
Thanks very much, Marco. And Ms. Burke, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do. Thank you for your review, Marco. I appreciate it. With respect to, this is just sort of a housekeeping thing, but with respect to the new comments that came in from the engineer in Marco's first line item of the revised site plan, although the consulting engineer said everything was fine, we actually haven't seen that memo, and I would love to have a copy of that memo forwarded me for our records. I'm not quite sure how to go about getting that. And then on the parking with the zoning board application, we actually submitted an application to the zoning board on January 24th. So that was 3 weeks before this memo was written. So hopefully that has since been forwarded to Marco since it's already a planner on this project. So it doesn't need to be assigned, I would assume. So we would love if the board's in favor of the parking layout, once you've had a chance to discuss it, if we could talk about forwarding those comments tonight. The sidewalk, as we mentioned in our cover letter, we have no problem doing that public access easement, and we would love you to consider it to be a condition of the CO so we can get moving on a building permit. The Office of Fire Prevention issued a memo yesterday, March 2nd, 2022, an interoffice memo from their office, or I guess that was today, from their office to your office this morning. And I stopped into the fire marshal's office, and Dave Brown confirmed to me that it did get routed over. And that memo, hopefully you've seen that, has said that the project is ADA compliant and no further review is needed. And then with respect to the landscaping, this was actually discussed at the March 10th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. And at the time, we had expressed a desire to not put any street trees in, given the fact that this is a landscaping business where we're going to be displaying horticultural merchandise, and we would love for that to be seen similarly to the Grimes for Upon Native Plants down the road. I know there are some new board members since that March 10th, 2021 review, but at that time, the board did agree, not in letter, but in narrative at that meeing, that we didn't need additional landscaping. And then that's really it.
Ms. Burke, did not need additional landscape.
Yeah, you guys had talked about it at the March 10th, 2021 meeting, and collectively agreed that because it's a landscaping site where we're selling horticultural material, it was counterproductive.
Right.
But that didn't make it into the board's memo. So, maybe that's why it's brought up again. I'm not quite sure. But we feel like we've addressed everything that's been asked of us. And, that, like I said, that zoning board application was submitted, almost a month and a half ago now. So we'd love for the planning board to forward comments to the zoning board, and for that to get on the zoning board calendar, and for the planning board to schedule a public hearing so we can move forward on this.
Very well, thank you.
Sorry, Sandy. I just quickly add that I did receive the zoning board application. It was recently signed, and I did receive the new comments, and it is ADA compliant according to the Office of Fire Prevention. That was really, really new. That just came in. But those two things did happen. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm generally supportive of what the applicant's asking for on this. I kind of agree. Ordinarily, we would like, trees and native shrubs, but I can see where that would be something that, would be counterproductive, I guess was the word that was used. And I would be supportive of a statement to the zoning board on the right-of-way approval. So does any board member have anything that they wish to add on this at this point? Hearing none, then we'll prepare a letter to the ZBA and have our support, and we'll make the next notice, the next comments reflect no need for street plantings. And last chance, anybody? You want to add anything? Guess not. Ed, will you?
Nope.
No?
Just saying, no, I don't.
I saw a yellow frame come around your name. Okay, very good. In that case, Ms. Burke, we're done with this one, and now we'll go across the street. This is now Beckman Commercial Building, 94 South Euclid, and it will be Marco, and this time Ian will be covering it for the planning board. Go ahead, Marco.
So this is just across the street and a little bit to it's just a corner lot. So this was a site plan approval, site plan special permit approval that was granted back kind of a while ago to construct a two-story building, which is, containing a first floor veterinarian office and an office use on the second floor. It's currently vacant still. It's cleared of natural vegetation. The extension of time was granted in 2021 with condition that the applicant submit a revised site plan regarding the placement and the size of the proposed sidewalk. So the applicant has submitted those revisions that include a depiction of the road width of South Euclid Avenue, sidewalk connection, and revised sidewalk lengths. The planning board requested that the applicant include a measurement to the center line of the road to the parking spaces. Although the center line is not depicted, the width of the road is measured to be 30 feet and 6 inches, which is more than sufficient for the two 12-foot wide lanes for traffic. In addition, the parking spaces do meet the standards for the listed in the town code, and they do not impede the width of the lane of the travel lane on South Euclid Avenue. There is a connection. I'll just zoom in a little bit more so the board can see. There's a sidewalk connection to the adjacent western parcel, which is 92 South Euclid. That parcel is vacant and was recently granted site plan approval. And the applicant is to ensure that there will be a proper connection and that the public access easement is also going to be provided as for the sidewalk that's on the property itself. No comments have been received at the time of review of the time of the memo was written, but I can say that I received new comments since then, and there are some issues that just need to be addressed by the applicant and reviewed by the fire marshals regarding ADA. So that just needs to be, that's just one thing to be reviewed. But in conclusion, the applicant has submitted the revisions regarding the parking and the sidewalks. And the Office of Fire Prevention has made new comments that should be addressed by the applicant, and the board may wish to add any additional information if they require.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco. So, Ms. Burke, do you have anything you would like to add on this particular application?
Yeah, thank you again, Marco. So I don't really have a whole lot to add other than just with respect to the fire marshal comments. This memo was actually the first time the fire marshal's comments were brought into the written record. So I contacted the fire marshal's office yesterday to find out what this was all about. And he gave me a copy of a September 24th, 2021 inter-office memo from his office to the planning board, noting that he needed some more information on the curb cut and accessibility route and some more details. There was a couple reviews since then, and this was never brought up. And because it's an inter-office memo, we didn't know it existed. Drew Bennett, our engineer, has been working on this project since 2016. We would have been more than happy to include that in this submission. So, I expressed my frustration to the fire marshal, and, he obviously understands that frustration that we never got those comments. And now here we are basically ready to go, assuming you agree with the layout, with the exception of addressing his issues. So one of the things we had talked about was that when you submit for a building permit to the building department for a commercial property, it automatically gets routed to the fire marshal's office. And the fire marshal then reviews it to make sure there's all the ADA compliance and all the fire suppression devices and everything that is required by their office. And he, when I had asked him today, and I asked him if I could mention this to you tonight, so hopefully no one thinks I'm speaking out of turn on paraphrasing our conversation, but he was comfortable with reviewing the ADA accessibility, the details, and the curb cut when we submit for the building permit. It's just, like I said, we would have been done by now had we known that these comments existed. And because it's an inter-office communication, there's no way for us to find out about it unless it's presented to us. So I just would request that we could move this forward if the board finds it's okay, approve the modification, and then address those via the building permit.
Well, thank you for that. And I did read your memo, and I understand your frustration. Let's see how quickly we get through this, and maybe it won't make much difference, which will maybe be the case. Ian?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. We've been talking about this application for some time. Obviously, this is a modification after an extension, and there's been a lot of activity in the area. And I know some confusion all around, so I apologize for any delays. But I think where we stand now, I fully support the application. I think the parking is in the best place here, considering the constraints. The sidewalk is now all connected, and I think the plan of this section of neighborhood, while a little strained, a little strange and a little tight, I think that this property works. As far as the fire marshal, I think the last remaining issue is the fire marshal's comments, and I'm totally comfortable with making a condition of approval that they get fire department approval before the issuance of a building permit. And I think that actually makes sense because the plans that you'll submit for a building permit will include everything that they want. You now have those comments in hand, and so if there are issues with the curb cut or the ADA route, you can get out ahead of it. But I don't see any reason to hold this up in the planning board level anymore, and I support the application with that one condition of approval.
Very good. I'll just ask, does any board member disagree with Ian's assessment?
I just have one comment.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm the newest member of this board, and I really have not seen this before. I'm looking, if I'm a pedestrian and I'm on South Essex Street and I want to go south to Montauk Highway and go to the shops there, and there's a car parked in slot 5, I got to walk in the street or go between cars 5 and 6. Now that may be nothing to this board, but I mean, I live in Wainscott and I walk all the time, right? I walk over to the post office and I cross the street, and boy, I get really frustrated when I'm forced to walk in the street to get to another location. So I'm not sure if anyone's ever mentioned this or talked about that, but pedestrians in the street, I'm not a fan of. So that's my comment.
Well, if I could just jump in there for a second, if you don't mind. I get it. I totally get what you're saying. I think the difficulty in this situation is that site on the corner of Montauk Highway is already improved, and it doesn't have a sidewalk that runs up the end of it. So even if we put a sidewalk, we can't put a sidewalk through an alley, first of all. And even if we put one that ended there, it wouldn't join up to anything. And now we have to shift our parking on site, which wouldn't allow for the same number of spaces in the back. So we're dealing with an area that's already partially developed. So I think we're doing the best we can. And frankly, this was never brought up in the 2014 through 2018 review, nor in the last 3 years of, going back and forth since then.
I'm new.
No, it's understandable. This particular areas, the sidewalk, the parking. This is we would have benefited from a larger, more comprehensive review of all these applications years ago. And so now we're kind of playing catch up, I'm afraid to say.
You're just doing your job, Michael.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, no, good. Your instincts are good. Unfortunately, it's the land has been trod, I think. So, does anyone have anything else besides Michael's well chosen observation? Anything else from anybody? All right, Ms. Burke, if not, then we'll move it along and get it done as quickly as we can. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, the final matter we have on the site plan review is the Montauk Beach House. Eric is going to be taking that. And again, Ian, you're on the board. You're the board's point person for that. And is the applicant with us?
Yep, that's me again.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Andy Hammer's around somewhere. I know he hates Zoom, so he's probably hiding behind the YouTube, but he's here as well.
Well, all right. I don't see him on the screen here, so, it's all on you. All right, go ahead.
There we are.
Take over.
Yeah, the planning board last saw this about a year ago, which was the initial evaluation that it had. The proposal is basically to replace a 24 square foot barbecue grill with excuse me, 297 square foot covered food prep area. Hopefully you can see my screen right now. This is the old Ronjo property and now Montauk Beach House in downtown Montauk. And I'll zoom in a little bit on the property itself. And I do have the site plan to show you. Again, I don't imagine that most of the board members remember all the details of this application, but basically the structures that you see here that I have my cursor over, this is an existing concrete patio with a covering over it. The idea here would be to convert roughly this portion to a food service area. There were a lot more questions than answers at the time of the initial review. The town board had just approved the restaurant as accessory to resort as a use definition, which along with it came a lot of standards. The board reached out to the principal building inspector for a determination. That is attached to the memorandum that the board received and that was posted online. Basically, the building inspector answered the board's questions and stated that the food service use was a legally pre-existing use as opposed to a new one as an accessory restaurant or bar. She said that the proposed project does not represent a substantial expansion and therefore said that no additional parking is required. If the board does ultimately determine to approve the application, and I'm going to show you the survey now and then show you the close-up building plans in a second. But the building inspector did say one thing. She had conditioned that finding on, and I'm quoting, since this is accessory to the existing resort motel use only, then there should be no change to parking since it will just be for the patrons of the resort or motel only. The board might want to discuss with council a condition of approval that would, notarize that fact that this is to be for the patrons and or their guests and not for outside restaurant patrons. The board had requested a copy of the health department's food service permit to verify the number of existing seats. Again, this is upside down. North is below, so upside down, so to speak. But you can see this blue lining here is that interior covered food area that has a canopy over it, as you can see on that elevation. I'll show you a better one. There you go. And again, the trellis and the concrete patio are existing. They're not to expand. And there is existing seating in the area. The applicants have submitted a copy of the food service permit. It indicates that there's 26 seats approved already on the site. That, again, if you do choose to approve this, is something that you might want to cap, just to ensure that the proposed project is not an expansion of that use that was deemed legally pre-existing. Also, based upon the building inspector's determination, it does not appear that a sanitary system upgrade is required. That was another question that was asked at the time of initial review. The other outstanding issue was that string lighting through the trellis or onto the trellis had originally been proposed. The applicants have submitted revised lighting information or revised lighting plan that includes lights that are suspended from the trellis and hang down, but are fully shielded and compliant with the code and the board's guidelines. The fire marshal has verified that no additional water is needed and that the project is ADA compliant. This, again, is they're going from a 24 square foot, so 4 foot by 6 foot barbecue grill to a covered food service area that, as I understand it, is required by the health department. That's less than 300 square feet. Anything less than 500 square feet, the board is allowed to waive the public hearing requirement under the provisions of a minor site plan. So the board should have that discussion and determine whether or not it wants to hold a public hearing. But basically, in conclusion, the building inspector's determination seems to have cleared up the main questions that the planning board had, and the application is complete. And you should determine whether or not you are going to have a public hearing for this application.
Thank you very much. That's a thorough coverage of a long-standing two issues. Ms. Burke.
I think Andy joined too. Let's see if he, do you mind if I just see if he has anything to add before I jump?
Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for the delay in getting this back to the board, but really I think it was in the waiting for the building inspector determination sort of delayed us longer than we anticipated. And with everything that's been going on, it wasn't easy for us to follow up with her on a timely fashion. However, I'm very happy to report that the determination came through and it seems like everything's in order. I did want to draw the board's attention to the narrative that the applicant submitted with this application. Basically, it kind of goes through how COVID affected the resort industry and the importance of having these on-site food service areas for use by their guests and enjoyment by their guests. So we certainly have no objection to continuing the restriction that it's not available to the general public. It's being used by guests. And that's exactly the model that has really prevailed in very tough times for COVID in the service industry. I think this was sort of a life ring that they've been using to really provide a insular guest experience. Hopefully we're entering a new era when that's not as important, but I do think it was a real important part of their business model is to offer this food service as an accessory, or they call it auxiliary, but it's an accessory use to their resort experience. And it really did bolster their business and make it a much more protected space for their guests that resulted in significant dividends for them and their guests, much more enjoyment and a happier clientele. So that's all I really wanted to add, unless the board had any additional questions for us.
In that case, we'll let Ian go right ahead, and then the board will have a discussion. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Eric, for the memo. I think Eric summed it up very, very nicely. Look, the last time we talked about this, there were a lot of questions, and as the applicant and Eric pointed out, those questions have largely been answered by the building inspector, who determined this is not a substantial expansion, and it doesn't require any new parking. And I think that those were really the two big issues that we were all sort of struggling with. And frankly, I don't think it's our purview to decide because the building inspector has. So I think with that in mind, the application is ready to go. The applicant has offered to limit it to just the guests and their guests. And the other restriction I'd like to add is just to make sure that we know 26 total seats, which is what they're applying for. So there's no confusion and it doesn't sprawl. Again, I'm sure that's not a problem for anybody, but it makes sense for us to include it just to memorialize as part of the approval if it's approved. The last housekeeping issue was the lighting plan, and it seems like that's already been taken care of. So yeah, happy to say much less to talk about here, and I think it's good to go.
All right, thanks. Do any other board members wish to chime in on this particular application?
The only thing I
have one more thing.
Randy, hold on 1 second. Ian had a little bit more.
Sorry, I do think though, because of some of the complexities, of the process to this point, and because of the nature of a restaurant, we should have a public hearing. I know it's technically small enough not to, but this is more impactful, I think, than a storage area or something like that. And I think we should hold that hearing.
I would agree with that. Okay, thank you, Ian. Randy?
Yeah, I know it's been our practice to show the seating. I don't know if we could show the seating in the 26 seats. Where are they in the final site plan?
Would that be all right with the applicant?
Well, this is our final site plan, hopefully.
Right.
We weren't planning on coming back with another, rendition of it unless you require us to. But, in general, they go in that area, they move around. It's kind of like patio furniture, but it's all in that area. And then there's the bar seats at the bar. So.
Okay. All right. Randy, does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, it's a departure from what we like to see, but I'm not making an issue out of it.
Okay. Does any other board member have anything they want to add? In my view, this is relative. This is a relatively small change. If it was any bigger, I might, have more to say, because I do have concern about, the expansion of this into something more than just for the guests. And I think if you read the narrative, it indicates that there's, guests of a guest, which I think is a website, but in the business, the way they're operating it. But again, if we can figure out a way to keep the number of seats limited to 26, that should allay any concerns that I might have. I do agree with Ian, though, that there should be a public hearing on this. It's in a very, it's in dead center Montauk. I think that there should be a public hearing on this, at least give the public an opportunity. Does anybody on the board have a strong feeling one way or the other on public hearing?
Should have one.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone say no? I'm looking around. Michael, Sharon?
No, we should have it.
Sharon?
No, I agree. We should have one.
Okay, Michael?
I agree.
Okay. All right. Okay. So there you have it. All done. Public hearing. Okay. So, Ms. Burke, I think you had a pretty good night.
I think so. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. For those of you who are keeping score at home, the Greco-Hines matter is going to be put over for a week. We'll pick that up next week. So we are now leaving the work session, and we'll go into our regular meeting. We have one board of review and then 3 resolutions. Board of review, I'll read in the application, the request, I should say, of Jorge Cruz for a building permit on premises at 15 8th Street, Springs, lots 45 to 48, block number 12, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-76-3-4. I've read the Board of Review, which includes an undertaking in the sum of $24,000. There's a considerable amount of work that's going to be done under this Board of Review, and I move for its adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, 6-0. Thank you. Okay, then we have, as I say, 3 matters on for resolutions. The first one, Ian, is the lot 72. Do you have it?
Yeah, in the matter of the application, Lot 72 LLC minor subdivision, to schedule a public hearing for Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard. I've read the resolution and move for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed 6-0. Ed, the next 2 are yours. The first one's 8-5 Rod Highway, agricultural barn.
Yeah, before I read it, just want to clarify something. So it says that the public hearing is to be held at Town Hall, but it also says that due to public health concerns, in-person the in-person aspect of this is not expected to happen.
Correct. Yeah.
So tell me about that, Nancy. What is?
Thank you.
Yeah, we met. Well, this came up a couple of weeks ago when we couldn't hold the hearing because we didn't have jurisdiction. So this is frankly a way to cover it no matter what happens. I mean, as it stands now on the 16th, we're supposed to go back to open meetings, but who knows if the COVID is going to be extended, where we will keep doing Zooms. So this will allow us to have the public hearing either way. The town board has been doing this now for a while, showing both sides and, making it clear that you can go onto the website, to find out any updated things. I mean, this is the best we can do under the circumstances.
Right. Understood. So if the executive order isn't lifted, people will have to do Zoom, or if the meeting does take place in person, can they still do Zoom?
As it is now, we will not be doing Zoom anymore after, like our 16th meeting will not be via Zoom. It's only if the governor increases their order that she just increased 6 weeks ago when we went through this.
Okay.
I know, like, who knows? In my head, I'm thinking things are looking good, so we'll probably not be doing it via Zoom, but then you never know what's going to happen with this over the next couple of weeks. But in any case, this allows us to have jurisdiction, whether it's in person or via Zoom.
All right. Okay. So in reading this in, I should probably make note of that it's expected to be in person at Town Hall, but stay tuned. And if not, it won't be.
Yeah. This is
okay.
Yeah. And the ZBA is doing this. The town board's doing this. This is the best way we can handle the circumstances.
Creative lawyering.
There we go. Okay. So in the matter of the application of 8 5 Rod Highway Agricultural Barn Site Plan, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-200-2-48.4, schedule a public hearing. Public hearing is scheduled to be held at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, on Wednesday, the 23rd of March at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard. The hearing will remain open for a period of 7 days until March 30th for purposes of receiving written comments, which can be submitted via email to planning board at ehamptonny.gov and by mail to 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, and received on or before the close of business on March 30th, 2022. Please check the town's website at https://ehamptonny.gov for update information regarding hearing procedures, including whether or not this will be held in person at Town Hall or via Zoom. I have read the resolution and call for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass 6-0. All right. And the last one on our agenda is Crystal Muse. Ed, that's yours also.
Right. In the matter of the application of Crystal Muse Site Plan Special Permit, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-188-2-5, resolution amending approval. I have read the resolution and call for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed 6-0. All right. Well, thank you all, folks. We do have a meeting next week, right?
Yes. And the week after, and the week after.
And the week after. And the week after, it looks like we will be the first live and in-person board, assuming that the March 16th date is the date that things change back to the way it once was. So, with that, does anyone have anything you want to add? Questions, comments, anything? In that case,
thank you, Sam. Thank you,
Randy.
Service, Sam.
Thank you for being there. Thank you, your service, all of yours. And I appreciate it. And Randy, you got to get that camera fixed.
I know.
we got to know you're there. So, all right. Well, somebody please make a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass 6-0. We are adjourned.